Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany Brown and I'm coming to you today to speak up on a subject that we may all be familiar with, and that is food poisoning and how to avoid it. Have any of you ever experienced food poisoning or salmonella or come in contact with E. coli? Well, I hope not for your sake. Millions of people in the United States and around the world have been affected each year with foodborne organisms that cause food poisoning. And the bacteria that are at stake that will cause people to become sick from eating foods and drinking beverages are ones such as Salmonella and E. coli. 1 in 6 Americans have suffered from this illness. 128,000 people are being hospitalized each year from contaminated food and beverages, and around 3,000 people have actually fallen victim to food poisoning. The purpose of this speech is to inform you about the important steps that need to be taken to decrease the risk of contracting food poisoning. Well, for instance, food poisoning is a bacterial infection from the consumption of foods and beverages that have been tainted but are preventable. I will discuss this food poisoning, the various types, different actions that can be taken to avoid it from being contracted. Food poisoning is a foodborne organism-like illness that is caused by eating foods that are contaminated by bacteria. Food that is consumed may contain cross-contamination from items being placed in areas that are unsanitary. For instance, you're at a restaurant, you're on your job, you're getting ready to prepare food for the customers that are waiting up front. Well, you see one of your fellow employees actually pick up cooked meat that has been sitting in a heated area and then go back to drop raw meat on a grill. Well, that is cross-contamination because you're mixing cooked food with raw food just from the use of your hands. And another instance that can happen if you are fixing sandwiches here on a counter space area, which you have just cooked maybe some chicken or poultry or fish earlier that day, but you didn't actually get to properly sanitize the surface. Well, that's cross-contamination as well. You are taught in fast food restaurants or any establishment that supplies a consumer food to properly wash your hands and to properly make sure the area and the surface are properly sanitized before actually making or fixing food for a consumer. Well, there are steps to follow, simple steps, which will help prevent this from happening. The one main important topic will be to wash your hands. Washing your hands can prevent so many illnesses that can prevent other people from contracting maybe what you have if you are sick. Cleaning utensils and surfaces properly, which I mentioned earlier. That means, for instance, like washing dishes. Many people use bleach or a cap full of Clorox in your dishwater, especially when you know you're going to be handling poultry, meats, or beef or any sorts before you tend to cut in vegetables and placing vegetables in a container. You want to make sure that you're not cross-contaminating the bacteria from the meat to the vegetables. Another situation that you could do would be keeping raw and cooked food separated. You don't want to mix your raw food or have your raw food near your cooked food because it could become cross-contaminated. There could be juice or water that you've rinsed the meat off with that could actually splash onto cooked meat, and that could become contaminated. Another prevention step you could take would be cooking foods to the proper temperature. I know there are people out there that like to have their eggs runny or sunny side up. I'm not one of those people. I really like my food cooked well and well done. And there are so many bacteria situations floating around in raw eggs. And for instance, steak. Many people like their steaks rare, medium rare. Well, that's not really healthy for you. That could cause you to become or come in contact with food poisoning as well. And another step would be to make sure that you refrigerate and freeze the perishable items afterwards. But you must wait at least an hour, or the food must sit within an hour in room temperature before being placed in the refrigerator. And another step would be to defrost meats and poultries and vegetables properly, because if not, they have bacteria lying dormant upon them, which could make you sick once consumed. The symptoms of having food poisoning would be experiencing abdominal cramps, fevers and chills, weakness, nausea and vomiting, and diarrhea, in which in some cases the diarrhea may contain a bit of blood within it. There are also treatments that can help with a person that has contracted food poisoning, and which is keeping the body hydrated and making sure you try to eat your normal diet as close as you possibly can without being uncomfortable. And you want to make sure that you get plenty of rest, but your main thing is to stay hydrated. Well, food poisoning is an illness caused by eating foods that are contaminated with bacteria. Washing hands, cleaning surfaces, keeping foods properly separated, and refrigerating items properly can prevent 1 or a million people from contracting this illness. Everyone can fall victim to food poisoning, but by being clearly informed can decrease our risk and teach us how to prevent this from happening to the people we loved, even ourselves. I thank you for your time, and you have a wonderful evening.